Problems with the economy have made the General Motors plant a revolving door for employees. Because of slow car sales, GM workers are on the job for a while and then laid off. Just 1 month ago, 2,800 auto workers had been called back to the plant. But even then, they knew GM had scheduled the October layoff if car sales didn't pick up. The Oklahoma City plant makes the A car. GM officials have high hopes that the cars will be big sellers in the future. But for now, there are just too many factors, especially high interest rates, preventing much car buying. The personnel manager at the Oklahoma City plant said the layoffs are disruptive.
Well, it's very unsettling, I think, and particularly when you go out on layoff, you have a concern maybe I won't get called back when they say I'm going to be called back, and there's always that uncertainty. But we don't anticipate that at this time. We feel that this is the only time we'll be down through the end of the year.
The president of the UAW local points to the large number of foreign cars being purchased as another reason American auto companies are doing poorly.
1/3 of the market is now imports. And with 1/3 of the market imports, there's just no place for the American car.
All parties agree things probably won't get much better for these workers until the entire economy picks up. Bill Ross, Action 4.
When the man lit the pilot light, it exploded. The building was an attached building. It exploded and caught that side of the place on fire. Being that it was wood construction, it went up very rapidly, so that's why it was so intensely involved when we arrived on the scene.
The overall money picture for Oklahoma City is not too bad. However, the bite of recession is about ready to take its toll in the capital city. Money for repairing roads is a big concern among city leaders. The money that came out of a 1976 bond election is all but spent, which means the bank account for capital improvements is near broke. City officials say the important thing to do is remain calm.
We are looking at options, at ways we can start tightening down on employment, on services, but we're going to watch it carefully, and we're not going to overreact to it. I think a lot of cities have hit the panic button.
Keeping the city's water system in good shape is not going to be easy unless more money becomes available. The system is already outdated in many ways. For fiscal year 1981, the city expected to make $82 million in sales taxes and $94 million for 1982. In past years, more money was brought in than anticipated. But for 1982, the taxes are falling way short of what the city wanted to earn. The only hope is inflation doesn't take off again. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
It was May 12th, 5 months ago, when Braniff shut down and filed for bankruptcy. Braniff's ticket counters are now occupied by Delta and United Airlines. But Braniff still owns the space, just leasing it to Delta and United. In fact, Braniff still has an operating agreement with the city for the next 15 years. So what would happen if Braniff did reorganize?
If Braniff does come back to Oklahoma City, they have subleased their space to 2 other carriers, and they'll just have to make room with the 2 other carriers.
And if Braniff does decide to come back to Oklahoma City, there is some good news. Last week, the Airport Trust approved a $5 million expansion project. So if Braniff should come back, there will be plenty of room. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Will Rogers World Airport.
If animals could talk, they'd probably tell you it's going to be a rough winter. At least that's what veterinarian George Springer says. He's got an interesting theory. When the animals' coats get long and bushy this early in the season, he says it's a good bet we'll see hard winter weather. The animals just seem to know, probably because they spend more time dealing with extremes in temperature. And when the weather gets too cold for them, they'll find some way to stay warm.
The domestic animals that I've got at home are already putting on a pretty woolly coat. And of course, animals like the giraffe, you don't notice much on them. They're kept inside during the winter time because who wants to treat a giraffe with a sore throat, you know?
This Bengal tiger is obviously trying to tell us about the impending chill in the air. In fact, Dr. Springer says there are personality changes among most all animals when the season changes. But still, this year, nature has provided us with some other clues that could spell out cold.
For instance, this year I noticed squirrels started cutting the hickories earlier, and we're seeing a lot of feeding on acorns extremely early this year. So I think that the animals are trying to get ready for what could be a pretty tough winter.
It may be a rough one for most of us, but it doesn't take a veterinarian to guess which zoo animal will just love it. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
Midwest City Police responded to a domestic dispute at the Greenery apartment shortly before 5. When they arrived, shots were fired at the officers from this apartment. 22-year-old Ernest Eugene Reeves of Jones was holding his girlfriend hostage, Gwen Carol Tubby. The suspect's sister assisted police in coaxing Reeves to release his hostage. At 5:45, approximately 45 minutes after the hostage had first been held at gunpoint, she was released. She was checked by paramedics but had not been injured during the ordeal.
Back up.
An hour after the ordeal began, Reeves was under arrest. He surrendered after officers agreed to let his sister go with him to police headquarters. Reeves was loaded into the squad car, clinging to his sister. In addition to Reeves' sister, police negotiators helped coax the suspect out of the barricaded apartment.
Sergeant Young was in conversation with him over a long period of time, and it is my understanding, although I don't know for a fact, that Sergeant Young did in fact talk him out.
The hostage was taken to police headquarters for questioning, where she told police a domestic argument ignited the ordeal. Reeves is in the Midwest City Jail. He will be charged in the morning. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in Midwest City.
This fire yesterday left 10 Oklahomans without a place to live. The cause of this blaze, a space heater too close to furniture. This fire could have been prevented, like most fires, but since a space heater was involved, prevention is simple.
I think the advice that we would give people is probably the same in each case. Number one, follow the manufacturer's recommendations for where you put the heater, how you use the heater, and especially important is distance from the heater, from anything combustible, a piece of furniture, draperies. You've got to keep, usually the recommendation is 3 feet away from a heater. Don't put anything that'll burn closer than 3 feet.
Actually, space heaters can be just as safe as central heating. And safety starts with a smart purchase. Know what you're buying. Be sure to buy a unit with an automatic shut-off device in case it tips over. If you're buying an electric model, don't expect it to heat an entire room. If gas or kerosene is what you want, be sure it's installed exactly as the manufacturer states. If you now own a space heater, this is a good time of the year to make sure it's working properly.
It's a good time to clean it, to just pull some yearly maintenance on it, make sure the thermostat's working properly, make sure the pilot light is working properly before it gets really cold and you just have to use it every day. And we know, unfortunately, that during the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to have a lot of fires caused by heating equipment. It happens every year.
Dan Slocum, Action 4.
televisions were then taken out. We went to 12 places. They're all listed here. You can see the names of the places that we visited and the amount that we were charged. Now the ones that you see charged with the red down through here, the top 5, either did work that was not necessary, which they charged us for, or replaced parts that did not need to be replaced and charged us for extra work that did not need to be done. You can see the price of one of these fuses would run anywhere from 50 cents to $1. Incidentally, these TVs cost us, brand new, no special deals, $269 a piece. So you can see that the cost of some of the repairs was almost the cost of the entire television unit. But Decker and Sons, we had to replace the power supply board, because they did replace it when all...
Choctaw Junior High School is about 6 miles from Star Elementary. That's the school where 7 people died earlier this year when a water heater exploded. Being so close to that tragedy, the Choctaw School District hired an outside contractor to ensure it wouldn't happen here. Despite that precaution, 8 of the district's 90-odd water heaters flunked their state inspection this week. In most cases, Labor Department Inspector Joe Judd detected minor violations, like this pressure relief valve, which was pointing the wrong way.
It's going to overheat, for sure. If something happens where this is discharging, it's overheating already. And if it cannot get rid of what's it's heating in here, it's going to blow up. There's no doubt in my mind it will.
A school plumber accompanied the inspector, correcting minor violations as they were pointed out. The Choctaw School District sent its 3 plumbers to a special school on water heater safety so they would be more knowledgeable about the subject. At nearby Nicoma Park Junior High School, Inspector Judd found a couple of more serious safety violations. Hot water for the girls' and boys' showers is supplied by a pair of 90-gallon hot water heaters. A close inspection revealed that there was no temperature sensing probe installed on the tanks. If the heaters continually fired, like they did at Star Elementary, no safety device could detect the excessive heat and shut the unit off. Choctaw school officials were disappointed by the news of the violations. They pledged to repair the problems immediately.
We're going to start on that immediately this afternoon, finish up over the weekend.
The water heater report card for Choctaw schools is better than for most districts across the state. About 10% of the water heaters here flunk state inspections. That compares to about 40% statewide. But the important thing to remember is that it only takes one faulty heater to set the stage for tragedy. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Nicoma Park.
I am a drug addict.
You are?
Yes.
How do you know?
Because I'm addicted. I can't, I can't go out there and someone stick a joint in my face and me pass it down as much as I wanted to.
The public is really unaware of how widespread this problem is. It's pandemic. It's gone past epidemic proportions. If they've got kids, and the kids will at least be honest with them, elementary schools, churches, It doesn't matter where a kid goes these days, he's going to have the ability and the potential of buying and using drugs.
Square. I think that we have learned a great deal in history, payoff of insured deposit, on how to handle a situation of this type. Plus we had another merger we put together. So arrive at the office and let them come in, or that institution must step in and agree to be partially.
Come on. On your chest. Keep your chin on your chest. Your head fall down. That's a good... Walk in.
Yep. Are they down in the same way or not? Are they now? Are they pointing the same way now or not? They are.
Now we can take a look in the restroom and see what. Let's take a look. This door is good in that, although it's a heavy door, that is, the closure system is heavy, the wheelchair can come in here without difficulty. The person can then let the door slam, and but the door. You want to hold on to the door then. But is not able to come inside the normal commode because there's.
There is speculation already that if something isn't done to ease the overcrowding in our prisons, that Judge Buchanan will step in again and order the state to build a new prison system. As governor, what priority does this have in your administration, and what do you intend to do about it?
I would like to consider, of course, alternatives to incarceration wherever possible. Sometimes the threat of incarceration is punishment. But obviously we must look to the correctional needs as we look to the others. I don't want to ever shortchange our schools or our highways or our mental health programs, but we of course will do those things that we're required to do to comply with the correctional program as set by a court order.
I think that rather than sentencing people to a period of enforced idleness and giving them a private room, that what we ought to do is put our prison population to work. I think this would have an extremely beneficial effect on the crime rate in Oklahoma. It would destroy, first of all, the prison culture in which many career criminals feel quite comfortable when they're behind bars. Secondly, it would also instill some discipline and some work habits into many individuals who may not yet be hardened criminals and greatly enhance their chances to return to society as productive, law-abiding citizens once their term behind bars is over. I don't think the answer necessarily lies in spending more money. And certainly we've spent a lot of money on our prisons during the last 4 years.
Colgate, Oklahoma is a town with high unemployment, a high crime rate, and a low budget when it comes to funding the Cole County Sheriff's Department. Cole County Sheriff F.R. Heck has been charged with manslaughter in connection with the September 23rd death of an inmate. Apparently, a trustee prisoner at the jail gained access to keys, opened an evidence locker, and stole some alcohol and Quaaludes while the jailer was away. He shared those stolen goods in this cell with another inmate, Gary Gene Orr. But the combination of pills and alcohol was too much for Orr. When the jailer returned, the prisoner was face down in his cell, dead. Today, during a preliminary hearing for Sheriff Heck, testimony revealed that the county jail was not properly supervised the night of Orr's death. The three-man sheriff's department had been working around the clock trying to maintain the office. But Sheriff Heck admits that his staff is not big enough to run this department, and the budget doesn't allow for more personnel.
For the money that I'm given to operate the jail, I'm completely understaffed in jailers. There's 526 square miles in this county. There's sheriff, undersheriff, and one deputy. That's all the field men we have. We're working of an average of 14 hours a day now. So, you know what we're up against.
In a few months, most folks will have forgotten the death of Gerry G. Noor here in Cole County. But for this county and many counties across the state, the basic problem will remain. Many rural sheriffs just don't have the money to adequately staff their departments. And until that problem is corrected, there may be more victims of the county sheriff system. In Colgate, Kurt Autry, Action 4.
The forest as we know it is gone. It's not there anymore. It'll never be that way again on the Weyerhaeuser operation. It's all been turned into one species of pine tree that, as the report brings out, doesn't exactly benefit all types of wildlife, very detrimental to some types of wildlife. There are chemical applications. More than once, it's scared us to death. We don't know what they're doing to us in that respect, but what they're doing is more or less removing the old forest and planting a new crop of trees.
And my client surely is killed in the courtroom, just as much as if a sword were run. And when the attorney, with his words, not with his sword, but with his words, fails to save his client, the man will surely die. And so we are dealing with real blood, with real guts in the courtroom, with life and death issues, and we are truly hunters and warriors there, and I simply have a very clear sense of that.
They're brand new. Look over there at him for a minute, will you? Yeah, they're
Newsroom, take 2.
Republican incumbent Fred Snyder is proud of the job that he has done for District 3. This week, Snyder attended a ribbon-cutting ceremony, opening another road completed under his administration. Although Snyder says he will stand on his record, he admits there is more work to be done in District 3.
You know, most people feel that the county commissioner's job is building roads, and it is an important thing, and it's probably the one thing that most people see. But county commissioners are also responsible for the administration of the county government, and in this is the physical matters, and I feel that in physical matters that we have a record that's unbeatable.
Snyder is 66 years old. He resides in Edmond and is self-educated. Farmer and former county employee E.L. Pete McBroom feels it's time for some new blood in county government. McBroom is a lifelong resident of Edmond and feels he has keen insight into the needs and wants of his community.
I think roads and bridges, right now, we need improvements in our roads, quite a bit of improvement, and some new bridges. Real bad. We have some bad bridges that's probably built back in the 20s, and I think they need to be replaced.
McBroom is 47 years old. He resides in Edmond and has a business management degree from Central State. The ballot for District 3 will read E.L. Pete McBroom against Fred Snyder. Kurt Autry, Action 4.
It took months of negotiations involving the state and rail users to make today's ceremony possible. Katy Railroad officials and the people of Reno, Oklahoma were welcoming the railroad back after an absence of nearly a year. It also took moves by the state that drew criticisms that Oklahoma was getting into the railroad business. The speakers at today's ceremony say the railroads are vital to Oklahoma, not only in the services they provide to agriculture and industry, but in the jobs they provide as well.
That's the sweetest sound you're going to hear today. That sound that you hear is the sound of people going back to work. That sound you hear is the sound of El Reno once again being a thriving railroad community.
Down the line, the state hopes to reopen more of the abandoned rail. About 100 men will go back to work when the lines dedicated today get into full swing. For some, railroading is a family tradition.
I came from a long line of railroad people. I've had my uncles, my dad, all railroad people right here, most of them. My wife's family were all railroad people.
The lines open today will provide Oklahomans with service from Kansas all the way to Dallas, Texas. The move cost the state and the Katy and OKT railroads $55 million. For the state, their return on the investment in renewed jobs and services make it all worthwhile. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 in El Reno, Oklahoma.
The National Cowboy Hall of Fame has been firmly perched atop Persimmon Hill for the past 17 years. City, state, and Chamber of Commerce officials would like the $50 million museum to remain right where it is. But there's a move afoot to move the tourist attraction. Hall officials threatened to move their museum a year and a half ago. Governor George Nigh stepped in and pledged state support for a park surrounding the shrine. Nigh gave no timetable, but he promised help in beautifying the area. Hall of Fame Executive Vice President Dean Krakel says Governor Nigh has gone back on his word.
We had all this hope, all this belief, and all this spirit, but it hasn't come to pass. I'm not saying it's a lie, but I'm just saying that, in my opinion, it hasn't gelled. They placate everybody and then go on and do something else.
I'm a very avid supporter. We've put up the signs, we've taken over the property, we've mowed, we've provided security. As a matter of fact, when I was chairman of Tourism and Recreation as Lieutenant Governor, Dean Krakel told me probably 10 times he didn't want the state out there. He told me not to come out there. He told me he didn't want any publicity from the state. He didn't want any signs up, and today he's criticizing.
The state has put up signs pointing the way to the Cowboy Museum, but Krakel says that isn't enough. He plans to ask his board of directors to seriously consider the museum's future at their December meeting. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Action 4 was the only news team at the Bill Bishop watch party, and he made the hardest announcement a politician can make.
Of course, we don't have all the final precincts in, but we have enough in to know where we're at, and we've lost the race because there's no way with the lead that Buchanan has that we can catch up.
Supporters of the Democrat thought for sure their candidate would be the new District 2 Oklahoma County Commissioner because of a heavy voter turnout. But disappointment quickly wiped hope off the faces of the people here as early returns came in.
The time and effort and all.
Republican incumbent F.G. Buck Buchannan, on the other hand, was celebrating at his watch party. Buchanan has been the District 2 County Commissioner for the last 16 months and feels his record is what got him reelected.
We've done more road building and bridge building in Oklahoma County has been done in the last 5 or 6 years.
As for District 3, Republican Fred Snyder dropped by the Buchanan watch party after learning he was ahead of Democratic challenger E.L. Pete McBroom. Snyder, also an incumbent, is confident enough precincts are in to smell victory. Even though McBroom is still behind, he is not giving up. Snyder credits his early lead to his performance as a county commissioner.
Well, for the county, we've saved them over $500,000. We have tightened up the administration down there. We've certainly improved the roads in my district. I have now completed 5 bridges, and we have lots of road work done, and I think we're doing more than's ever been done there. And I think that